Shalom. First and foremost, call Halal Yamla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaRachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned the truth from. And also peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And the title of this video is going to be, The Just Shall Live by Faith. Alright. And this, of course, is coming directly from Habakkuk 2 and verse 4, which we always bring out. And we're going to continue to bring this the scripture out, all right, daily, okay, pretty much until the famine of the word hits, which is upon us, all right, and ultimately until Yahweh Shai comes back and delivers us, the hopeful elect, all right. Habakkuk 2 verse 4, it says, Behold, his soul, which is lifted up is not upright in him. All right, talking about Esau, Edom. Esau's soul was lifted up in him in these latter days. Okay, his pride has deceived him at an all-time high. He's boasting in his pseudoscience and his technology, the charagma, okay, AI, and as always, he's boasting in his sword. All right, getting ready to wage war with against Jake, all 12 tribes, and ultimately gearing up to wage war against his own American citizens, okay, even amongst his own people, these average everyday American Edomites that were all for this Trump administration and MAGA and all about making America great again and making America Christian again. All right, well, Esau, Edom, all right, the elites of Esau, Edom, who do the working of Satan on the earth, okay, who are at the forefront of doing the working of Satan, are getting ready to use this Trump administration to wage war against, okay, Jake, all right, the average American citizen, including these Edomites, all right, these average, everyday, red-blooded American patriotic Edomites, all right. And so it says again, Habakkuk 2 verse 4, Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Okay, because Esau, Edom, he's getting ready to come down with great wrath in his latter days. All right, he's getting ready to lose his mind, as he knows he has a short time left within his rulership, within his blessing. All right. He knows that Yahweh Shai and the holy angels are getting ready to come back and take him down and take this system down. All right, and raise up, all right, us, the true Israelites, so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, us, the hopeful elect. Okay, the Lord is getting ready to set us up back in power. Okay, the throne of David, ruling over the heathen nations, starting with the tabernacles of Esau, Edom. Right, these Edomites. Okay, especially the elites of Esau, Edom. All right, they know this is getting ready to happen according to prophecy, so they're getting ready to wage war on all levels to try to upset the Lord's prophecy. Okay, like it speaks of in Psalms 2nd chapter. Why do the heathen rage and imagine a vain thing? The heathen, starting with the tabernacles of Esau, Edom, are looking to establish the NWO system in these latter days. Okay, digital, global, one world system where they want to pretty much enslave all humanity on a digital grid, a digital system governed by AI and technocrats. All right, and stick the charagma, the MOTB, inside of all humanity, the microchip, for the purpose of control, as well as the purpose of the elites of Esau, Edom, setting themselves up as God on the earth. You see that? To try to exalt the Most High and His Son, all right, and set themselves up as God on the earth through pseudoscience and technology, okay, carnal left-hand means, all right. And so we know as Esau is moving towards that direction with warp speed, it's going to come with, Esau putting a squeeze on people, all right, taking away people's comforts and luxuries. All right, things that people boast in, to cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to bow the knee to the image of this beast system, ultimately fulfilled in the NWO, and cause all to take their charagma. Okay, and we know that we, the hopeful elect, are even going to have to go through particular, discomforts and lose certain comforts and luxuries that we may have in this world, whether it be jobs, money, okay, family members, all right, whatever things in this world that pull us, that pull at us, at our spirits. We know that as Esau is getting ready to set up his NWO system, that we're gonna have to detach from these things. Okay, detach our minds and our spirits from these things of this world. Okay, and attach to Yahweh Shema Shai in faith, as it said. But the just shall live by faith. Okay, we're getting ready to go through the straightest part of the straight gate that Yahweh Shai commanded us to go through, pursuant to Matthew 7 and around about the 13th verse. All right, things are getting ready to get even more tighter. Things are getting ready to get more uncomfortable. Things are getting ready to get more bitter. All right, but when it's all said and done, for the elect, it's also going to be, all right, or rather, it's also going to get more sweet. Okay, as the Lord during these times is going to make known who are chosen. He's going to lift up a standard for his elect, right? So to make sure that the elect have protection and provision and have the things that they need to endure to the end to receive salvation. All right, Lord will not be of their number, but it starts with us, the hopeful elect, having to step out on faith towards Yahweh Shema Shai more than ever when these times come. Okay, and mind you, all right, what we're reading here in Habakkuk 2 is dealing with end time prophecy, as it speaks of in the verse above, right above that. Okay, Habakkuk 2 verse 3. As a matter of fact, I'll read it in the NLT. Habakkuk 2 verse 3 in the NLT, it says, this vision, all right, what is the vision? Prophecy, Bible prophecy. It says, this vision is for a future time. See that? It's for a future time. It describes the end, and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. Okay, it will not tarry, as it says in the KJV. Okay, because these visions, these end time prophecies. Okay, Esau looking to set up the NWO system, the MOTB. Esau coming down great wrath with the sword. All right, famine, perplexity everywhere, civil war, civil unrest, all out anarchy. Okay, all these visions, all these end time prophecies, economic collapse, teeth of wild beasts, and many, many more. All right, all these end times visions, okay, all these end time prophecies, all right, at the end of Esau's rulership, all these things would all speak. Okay, they would all speak in the form of the prophets and the men of Yahweh Shema Shai going out and preaching and prophesying and forewarning our people of these things. Okay, and then these things are ultimately going to speak in the form of them actually coming to pass. All right, and we clearly see the end time of Esau's rulership coming to pass. We clearly see the MOTB is right around the corner. World War III is right around the corner. Okay, great famine and perplexity is right around the corner. Civil war and civil unrest is definitely right around the corner. All right, looking at the whole, social, political, climate here in America, Babylon the Great. People are all divided up more than ever. People are confused more than ever. And then now we're at a point where now a lot of people are getting ready to go hungry. Okay, possibly starting November 1st. Okay, which is about a week or two from now. All right, and we know what famine and hunger is going to cause a lot of these people to do. They're going to crash out. They're going to wild out. All right, and as well, a lot of this famine and perplexity and things like that is also going to cause a lot of these people that's going to be affected by the losing their SNAP benefits and their government aid. All right, a lot of these people are going to end up taking the charagma. All right, and really losing. See that? But again, this all speaks to end time prophecy. Habakkuk, the second chapter. Esau, Edom, lifted up in his pride at an all-time high, losing his mind, putting a squeeze on people, and it's going to lead to us, the hopeful elect, having to detach from the things of this world and lean wholeheartedly upon faith in Yahweh Shema Shai to make it through these times and to endure to the end. Okay? Matter of fact, I'll read verse 5. Habakkuk 2, verse 5. It says, Yea, also because he transgresseth my wine, he is a proud man. Alright? This is talking about Esau, Edom. It says, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell. Alright? Destruction, captivity. Right? It says, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Okay, so here we see our forefather, the prophet Habakkuk. He saw Esau, Edom establishing the NWO system in these latter days. Okay, Habakkuk saw visions of the end. Okay, he saw Esau, Edom lifted up in his pride, bringing forth nothing but death and destruction throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, and gathering all nations unto himself via what? Digital system, right? The MOTB. Okay, for the purpose of control over all humanity, controlling the minds of the people, controlling people's everyday lives, and controlling people's ability to travel, and social credit scores and all these things. Our forefather Habakkuk saw end time prophecy. Now, of course, he didn't see it in detail as our forefather John the Revelator in the book of Revelation. Because our forefather, the apostle John the Revelator, he saw the micro-CHIP, he saw the MOTB, he saw Esau, Edom through this beast system, America, NATO, and the EU, setting up an NWO system in these outer days via technology, AI, so on and so forth. But the Lord right here showed our forefather Habakkuk, just a short, abridged, version of that understanding according to end time prophecy. Okay? And as well as our forefather Habakkuk saw in verse 4 in this chapter as well, Habakkuk 2 and 4, he saw the just, the elect, the remnant of our people having to live by faith in Yahweh Shema Shai, wholeheartedly, as Esau would, set up this NWO system in these outer days. Us, the hopeful elect, the just, having to lean upon faith in Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. And from there, let me go to 2 Ezra chapter 9 and verse 5. It says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. You see that? The end is manifest. The end of Esau's world, the end of the times of the Gentiles, as Yahushua spoke of in Luke 21 verse 24. Meaning what? The end of the heathen nations ever having rulership over the earth before Yahushua comes back. These things, we're at the end of all these things. All right, and they're made manifest via of course, Bible prophecy, as well as us, the hopeful elect, seeing end time Bible prophecy, happening all throughout the world via the news, current events, what's going on throughout the world. All right, and real quick, let's look up the word manifest. It's like the word manifest on the Etam Online. All right, this is the word manifest from etamonline.com. It says, clearly revealed to the eye or the understanding. All right, open to view or comprehension. All right, then it goes and it also says evident. All right, plainly, apprehensible, clear, apparent, evident. Clearly revealed to the eye or the understanding. Evident, plainly. See that? Plainly. And as a matter of fact, as it also speaks of in Habakkuk 2 in verse 2, what did the Lord command the prophet Habakkuk? Okay, Habakkuk 2 and verse 2, it says, and the Lord Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision, all right, the prophecies, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. Okay, so the Lord commanded our forefather Habakkuk, all right, to write the visions that he was, given. Okay, which of course we read about all the visions that he was given in the book of Habakkuk itself, the book named after him, right? He commanded the prophet Habakkuk to write the visions and the revelations and the prophecies that the Lord was showing him, and then, making it plain upon tables. Okay, make it plain meaning what? Understandable. Make it evident. Okay, make it make it clear to understand. Okay, to those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, which is who? Us, the hopeful elect. Okay, that he may run it that readeth it. That he may run it that readeth it. Meaning what? That when we, the hopeful elect, when we would hear and read about these prophecies throughout the scriptures, as well as hear these prophecies being spoken by the men of the Lord, starting with the apostles and the bishops and the elders of Great Millstone, all right, down to the least of us that are of the hopeful elect. When we would hear these prophecies being spoken by the men of the Lord plainly, telling us what Babylon the Great is, telling us what the will of the Lord is in these latter days, telling us that the Lord is getting ready to bring destruction to the society and destroy Babylon the Great and America off the face of the earth, telling us that, okay, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is getting ready to come down with the sword, okay, bring forth famine and discomfort, economic collapse, and take away luxuries and comforts from people throughout the society. When we, the hopeful elect, will be brought to this understanding, it will cause us to run. Okay, run meaning what? Move with a sense of urgency. You see that? To seek the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai while he may be found, and repent, get our minds right, work out our salvation with fear and trembling, so that when these things come to pass in these latter days, hey, we the hopeful elect that are seeking Yahweh Shema Shai and doing the work of Yahweh Shema Shai will be covered and protected, okay, from the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai when these things come to pass. Okay, through what? Living in faith. The just shall live by faith. You see that? And so, that was what that word manifest goes into in Etam Online. And so now when we go back to 2nd Ezra 9 and verse 5 again, it says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. All right, the end is made plain upon tables. Okay, easy to understand by the elect. Right, it says verse 6, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings, and wonder and powerful works, and endings and effects and signs. All right, and at the end of Esau's world is going to is going to play out with many effects and signs. Okay, miracles, both on the left hand and on the right hand side, because as Esau is getting ready to come with his miracles on the left hand side through AI, through the charagma, through his pseudoscience and his technology, well, guess what? It's all going to lead to Yahweh Shema Shai, okay, performing miracles for the elect on the right hand side. Divine intervention, lifting up a standard for the elect, okay, giving certain brothers spiritual powers, right? Sending down the holy angels and the archangel Michael to protect the elect in these other times, pursuant to Daniel 12 verse 1. You see that? So the end of Esau's world is going to be marked with all types of effects and signs and miracles, both on the left hand and on the right hand side. Okay, all to play out the end of the Most High Yahweh's movie. All right, this movie that we call life, reality itself, prophecy. You see that? And it says, verse 7, and every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed. You see that? By his works and by his faith. Okay, because of course we know the scriptures exhorts us all throughout the volume of the book, to have faith in the Most High, to have faith in Yahweh Shai's begotten Son. All right, but how are we commanded to show our faith in Yahweh Shema Shai? Through our works, as it speaks of in James 2nd chapter. Faith without works is dead. Okay, we're commanded to show forth our works, to show forth our faith. Work out our salvation with fear and trembling, make our bodies a living sacrifice. Okay, serve Yahweh Shema Shai, preach His word, preach His truth throughout the four corners of the earth. Speak the end of Esau, Edom's rulership into existence, as well as the end of the heathen nations' rulership into existence as well. Okay, stand stiffly for the name of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, strive for the truth, even to death. All right, be faithful unto death, as Yahweh Shai even told us in Revelation 2:10. Okay, these are the works that we put forth to show forth our faith in the Mashiach, in Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, it says 2 Ezra 9 verse 7 again, and every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed, verse 8, shall be preserved from the said perils. Okay, what are the said perils that's coming down the pipe? Famine, persecution, tribulation, civil war, civil unrest, martial law, right? AI, police, robots, and robot dogs, and all this other madness that Esau's getting ready to come with. Okay, blackouts, all these things. And we, the hopeful elect, that are putting in the work to show forth our faith. All right, the Lord is going to preserve us from these said perils. Although we're going to have to be going through these things, we're going to have to go, certain periods of time without food and without water and without resources. Okay, for the Lord to test our faith and test our endurance and our patience. But when it's all said and done, okay, the elect that are going to stand stiffly for the faith in the name of Yahweh Shema Shai are going to be preserved and going to be protected and going to be fed and taken care of by Yahweh Shema Shai in the midst of these said perils. It says, 2 Ezra 9 verse 8, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. And you see, and that's the beauty of the Lord's story, because the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, okay, primarily the Most High Yahweh, has already ordained, okay, who He wants to get the victory at the end of His story. The Lord already ordained who He wants to receive salvation at the end of His story through His begotten Son Yahweh Shai. Okay, so hey, those of us that are of the hopeful elect, Lord willing, we be of the elect, no matter what. Okay, nothing is going to stop us from getting the victory. Nothing is going to stop us from receiving the salvation that the Lord promises, right? That the Most High Yahweh promises all throughout the volume of the book. But still, all in all, even though the elect are, sanctified and ordained and predestinated before the foundation of the heaven and the earth to receive salvation in these latter days, and we, the hopeful elect, still have to show forth our faith. Okay, we still have to put forth our works to show forth our faith to receive salvation. Okay, and because just like Noah, for example, right? Noah was ultimately ordained by the Most High to to be saved during the flood, right? Noah and his immediate family. Noah was ordained before the foundation of the earth to be saved from the flood. Okay, but guess what? Noah still had to put in the work, and as well had to show faith to the Most High Yahweh to still end up being saved, right? Because Noah still had to get up and build that ark, and he still had to go out and prophesy for over 100 years that the flood was going to come by the Most High, okay, before eventually it came, and before the Most High saved him and his immediate family from the flood, okay, via that ark. You see that? So Noah it is, one example amongst, several examples of how even though the Lord ordained certain men before the foundation of the heaven and the earth to receive salvation, okay, those same men still have to put in work to show forth their faith to the Lord, okay, for the Lord to be justified in saving them. You see that? And so likewise, we, the hopeful elect in these latter days, are going to be in that same stead. As Noah, during his time, was likened to a remnant. Well, hey, we, the hopeful elect, we're the remnant in these latter days. Okay? And as well, we're in the days of Noah all over again, where we're witnessing all manner of flood-like behavior throughout the earth. Okay, the sons of Cain, okay, doing wickedness throughout the earth again, in the form of the Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Okay, Cain and his descendants all up in reincarnation. All right, and as well, we're witnessing the sons of God. All right, our people, Israelites, following after the ways of Cain and the heathen nations and doing wickedness before the Lord in these latter days as well, just as it was before the flood. You see, so hey, that which is then is now. But as it's going into in this chapter, second Esdras, the ninth chapter, the elect that are sanctified by the Most High from the beginning are going to escape these said perils by their works and by their faith, okay, whereby we have believed. All right, but ultimately it's all ordained by the Most High before the foundation of the heaven and the earth. Okay, let me also get this. This is Hebrews chapter 10, and I start at 35 and read down. Okay, Hebrews 10 verse 35. It says, "Cast not away therefore your confidence, which have great recompense of reward." See that? Don't cast away your confidence in Yahweh Shema Shai. Another word for confidence is what? Faith. See that? Don't cast away your faith, your confidence in Yahweh Shema Shai, which had great recompense of reward. Because there's going to be a reward when it's all said and done for having faith in Yahweh Shema Shai. You see that? Salvation. It says, verse 36, "For ye have need of patience, that after ye have done the will of Yahweh Shema Shai." Okay, what is the will of Yahweh Shema Shai? Waking up to the truth, repenting and converting to Yahweh Shema Shai, calling upon the name of the Father and the Son, which is Yahweh, the name of the Father and his Son's name, Yahweh Shai. Okay, waking up to the fact that we're Israelites, understanding why we're in the conditions that we're in as a people, and what we have to do to be delivered out of these conditions through Yahweh Shai, right? And as well, learning this truth and going out and preaching this truth, making our bodies a living sacrifice, okay? Preaching this gospel throughout the four corners of the earth to bring the end of Esau's rulership into existence, okay? It says, Hebrews 10 and 36, "For ye have need of patience, that after ye have done the will of Yahweh Shema Shai, ye might receive the promise." You see that? So the reward is not going to come without doing the work. You see that? Because just like Esau doesn't reward you on a job, doesn't pay you on a job if you're not doing any work, well, how much more Yahweh Shema Shai? All right? If you want to receive a reward from Yahweh Shema Shai, you got to do his work. Put your hand on the plow, right? Edify his elect, edify his sheep, feed his lambs, just like Yahweh Shai told Peter. Okay? And then, at the end of your work, if you finish, here comes your reward, through Yahweh Shai, that the Lord promised you. It says, verse 37, "For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry." And who is the he that is talking about? Yahweh Shai. Okay? He that shall come will come and will not tarry. Just like we read in Habakkuk, the second chapter. The vision is for an appointed time. All right, let's pull it up real quick. Habakkuk 2 verse 3, For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And what's ultimately at the end of the vision? Okay, the vision of prophecy, the return of Yahweh Shai. Okay, and as it read again in Hebrews 10 and verse 37 again, for yet a little while, and he shall come that will come, and will not tarry. See that? So just like these visions, these prophecies, these end time prophecies shall surely come to pass, and will not tarry, although we wait for it. Likewise, the return of Hamashiach Yahushua, okay, will surely come and will not tarry. Okay, but we still have to wait patiently. Okay, with faith. All right, verse 38, Hebrews 10, verse 38. Now the just shall live by faith. But if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. See that? Quoting directly from Habakkuk 2 and 4. The just shall live by faith. All right. But, if any man draw back, all right, look back, take their hand off the plow and looking back to this world, all right, Yahweh Shema Shah is not going to have no pleasure in that individual. Okay. Because, all right, real quick, when you go to the very next chapter, Hebrews 11 and verse verse 6, it says, but without faith it is impossible to please him, all right, to please the Most High Yahweh. For he that cometh to the Most High Yahweh, Baal Shema Shai, must believe that he is, all right, Yahweh. That's what the name Yahweh means. He is, he exists, he is to be, right? And that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. See that? So, the number one thing to please Yahweh Shema Shai is faith. But if you, turn from the faith of Yahweh Shema Shai in these outer days, okay, draw back, as it just said, the Lord's not going to, matter of fact, let's read it again. Hebrews 10, verse 38. Now the just shall live by faith. But if any man draw back, all right, look back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. Okay, if you draw back or you look back into this world, especially as of right now, this late in the game, Yahweh Shema Shah is not going to have no pleasure in your soul, because you're doing the very thing that makes him displease you, which is what? Losing faith, lacking faith. Okay, fainting in a day of adversity, as it speaks of in the book of Proverbs, right? And it says, verse 39, but we are not of them who draw back unto perdition, okay, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul. You see that? Yeah, because, at this point in the game, all right, at this point in prophecy, if you draw back against Yahweh Shema Shai and back to this world, and you look back, okay, the only thing you're looking back to in this world at this point is perdition, okay, because everything is corrupted at an all-time high, it's tainted. Everything is played out here in Babylon the Great America. Okay, businesses are closing down left and right. You see that? Restaurants, okay, stores, various places where people would go to shop at and, have pleasure at, so on and so forth. Okay, everything is just all shutting down here in Babylon the Great. Okay, so, if you're an Israelite, especially in 2025, and you're lacking the faith, and you're looking back at this world, thinking that you're missing out on something in this world, okay, and you pretty much leave the truth and you look back to this world. The only thing you're looking back to at this point is perdition, okay, destruction, calamity, ruin, all right, and as well, the only thing you're gonna ultimately be looking back to is that charagma, which most certainly is going to lead to your perdition, your destruction, okay, pursuant to Revelation, the 14th chapter. You see that? It says, again, Hebrews 10, verse 39, but we are not of them who draw back unto perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul. You see that? Believing and having faith in Yahweh Shema Shai, having confidence in Yahweh Shema Shai in his outer days, is going to be one of the main keys. Is going to lead to the saving of the souls of the elect. okay, as well as, putting forth our works to show forth our faith. Okay, that's all going to lead to, us being saved, us receiving salvation, through the return of Yahweh Shai when it's all said and done. See that? So hey, the just shall live by faith. Okay. So Lord willing, this video is edifying, and until next time, shalom.